Hello everyone and welcome back to Better Building in Minecraft. This is episode 2, building your first house. So this would be aimed primarily at like smaller houses such as the ones you see in the background over there. And what I like to start out with is a build palette. Now this isn't a color palette, so these things don't have to be like colors. I mean, maybe you've seen some other videos where they talk about color. We'll get to that in a little while, but right now I just want you to think of like materials that you would use to build your house. And I want you to choose somewhere between 3 and 5 different materials. Think of, like the area that you're trying to model things after, like whether it's Nordic or England or something of that nature, like Chinese, Japanese, Persian, nomadic, things like that. Look at the level of wealth in that country or area that you're trying to mimic and think of the materials that they would use and try to follow that. But for me, like basic houses, especially like English style, I tend to do big logs in the corners, foundations of cobblestone or even stone brick if you want a little more fancy one. And then you could use wattle and daub type siding, which wool works great for that. And then up on the roof you'd have like wood like this, or you could do the hay, which for this particular texture pack I use the sponge texture, but with 1.6 coming out you'll have hay available, so you can use that for your roof texture. Okay, the next subject would be the odd rule. Now this is a graphic arts term, and what I mean by that is graphic artists tend to like things in odd numbers. And I think it's more for visual interest, but in Minecraft it actually works out very well to have odd numbers. So for instance, doors will be centered because you have an odd number of blocks, windows will be centered, things like that. Your roof peak will be centered if you wanted to do full blocks. Now granted, if you did stairs and things like that, you can get away with like 2 stairs next to each other and it doesn't look half bad. Or you can do a half slab if you make it this way. Just to show you what I mean, so here we have one that's even numbers, so your door is off-centered. You've got this kind of rounded top roof. Now this may be what you're going for. Like let's say you want to do a double door. It's like, yeah, that doesn't look so bad. So this could be something you're going for, but generally you would want something more like this just because it's just more pleasing to the eye. So keep that in mind when you're building things, that odd numbers tend to make things look a little better. And it's also easier, like the smallest one you can get away with would be like 3, and that way you will have a door that is surrounded by the wool and the cobblestone here, instead of doing something, or say you make one that's only 2 wide and then you have your wool right here and then your door has to like squeeze in there and it just looks cramped, looks crowded. So I think this is probably like the minimum would be 3, and then you can go more than that, but like I said, if you keep odd numbers it just looks a little more pleasing. Now this kind of goes against the basics that I told you about in the last video where you don't want symmetry, but you can break things up. Like if this was 7, you could easily put windows in there. You could, however, do something like this, put your door here, then do this, and put a window right here. Now that still looks great, and once again you've got wool in between each thing, because having a window like that doesn't work. So you have to have space for it. So that just looks better. It just works out, So to me, the odd rule is like the way to go on things like this. So that is the odd rule. Okay, so now you got your house built. Now you want to add a little more detail to it, just to get it so it's not like boring, let's say. So people come along, they'll do the standard thing. They'll put like a torch or something by the door. But the other option you could do is add some like shutters to the windows. Now granted, these ones aren't accurate because if you were to close that one would also cover over the top of the other one, but it still works for looks, so you could do something like that. The other thing you could try is if you put like a block down here, you can put these guys up, open those, then delete those guys, and you get this cool little like architectural detail. I'm not really sure what it's called. The other way you could do it is just use the fences, but I think it looks better with the other parts because they're a little less invasive. They're not as big, so they don't look as clunky, I guess. The only downfall with doing it this way is that someone will come along and mess with them, but I think they turn out pretty nice. You could add maybe like one right there just to give like this little nice little decoration, that kind of thing. The other thing you could do is put some buttons. These work really well when you're doing, say, like sand houses or something of that nature, and then you want it to look like the ends of beams that are like holding up the ceiling. So let's say, I'll get some sandstone here. So you just have kind of a box per se, you know, like this. And then you can just put these things right here, and it kind of just gives it the look of like, you know, that's what's holding up the roof. And then maybe on the inside you would take like a half slab and just put it like one low, you know, one lower, and that'd give you like a nice little deck up here, and then these things look like they're, you know, like poking through the stone holding this up. It just, little details like that, you know, just kind of spice up a build, make it look nice. You know, like adding this little smaller piece on the top of the chimney, adding these stairs on the chimney to give it that tapered look. It's just all mild detail stuff, you know. It's like, you can overdo it. I mean, like, to me, these buttons seem like exaggerate, like, you know, they just shouldn't be there. It's just overkill. Better. So that's just a couple more ideas. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll have another one out soon. Thanks. Bye.